So this summer, I have taken my inspiration from the lection, which is focused on Paul's letter to the Galatians for the first part of the summer, and then picks up the letter to Philemon, which is just a one-chapter little letter. We're going to spend the first couple of months of summer looking at Paul's letter to the Galatians. And I would like to use today as an opportunity to introduce you a little bit to the region of Galatia, the Galatian region, Galatia, and to tell you a little bit about how Paul got to know that region and what his experience was in that region, because it is that experience that he had that is part of the background context to the letter that we're going to read. And as I talked to you a few months ago about Scripture and how important it is to understand context in order to make sure we get the meaning right, I'm going to make sure you've got some good context for our conversations around Paul's letter to the Galatians. Now, today being Memorial Day and this period when we remember people who struggled and died for our freedom, it is appropriate in many ways for us to pick up the letter of Galatians and talk about it, begin our conversations about it, because what you're going to hear today is about the sacrifices that Paul and Barnabas made in order to get this gospel of freedom in Christ Jesus, freedom from our sin, freedom from the imposition of the law, freedom from other people telling us how to and what to do in order to be saved by God. That freedom has been won for us in Jesus Christ. And that freedom did not come at no cost. It came at great cost, not just to Jesus, but to those who sought to share his good news with others across the generations. And Paul and Barnabas were some of the first missionaries to do that. Now, I have a little map slide that has a black line on it that actually begins, I'm going to use my little pointer here, because we're going to trace the journey. This is the first missionary journey of Paul. Now, Paul, if you remember, was originally, and we'll hear more about this, he was a Jewish believer. He was a student of Gamaliel, one of the great rabbis of his time. And initially, when the Christians kind of started out as a little sect in Jerusalem, he was sent by the leadership of Jerusalem to root out and put in prison or stone to death the believers. He was standing beside the stoning of Stephen, the first martyr of faith. He was sent to Damascus with an entourage of temple soldiers to capture and imprison the Christians there when he had a vision that knocked him literally off his horse, blinded him, and turned him in an utterly new direction. Some 10 years later, maybe 15 years later, we don't know exactly when, but sometime around 45 AD, Paul became a missionary. He had been taught and trained by other Christians, and he ended up in Antioch of Syria. You hear a lot about Syria these days. He was in Antioch with a number of other believers, and oh yeah, laser. I'm going to be cool today. All right. So hopefully you can see the little laser right here. So this is Antioch. And in Antioch, which was really one of the first multicultural Christian communities, they set apart Paul, Saul, who I've said before, and I'll remind you, Saul was the name he used in the Jewish community, and Paul was the name he used in the Roman and Greek community. Like I'm Roberto in the Mexicano world, and I am Rob in the Gringo world. And many of you have had similar experiences in your life. So Paul was living that bicultural reality. Well, he and Barnabas and John Mark, a young man, adolescent, set off to go on their first missionary journey. And you can read about this missionary journey that we're about to talk about here in chapters 13 and 14 of Acts of the Apostles. And I encourage you to take a look at that. We, for the Spanish service, we only had a few folks, and so we actually did just a Bible study on that this morning. So they travel to the island of Cyprus, and they have a little bit of missionary work here. And then they come in through Perga and Pamphylia, and they travel up to another Antioch, which can be a little confusing, Antioch of the area of Phrygia. And it's in Antioch that we have in Acts chapter 13 one of Paul's first sermons given. And Paul's strategy, missionary strategy, was to enter a community and to find the Jews that were there. So he would find the synagogue. He had to have, I think it was 10 or 12, maybe 12 Hebrew men in a community before you could form a synagogue formally. And then that synagogue would become a place where you could pray and carry out the liturgy that the Jewish people normally did on Saturday for the Sabbath services. And so in Antioch up here, of Pisidia, Paul goes to the services, and the leadership sees him and Barnabas. Oh, I forgot to tell you, John Mark, that young man. He arrives here in Pamphylia, and I think he must not have taken to the sea very well, because he turns around and he goes home. And he decides he's not going to be part of this missionary venture any longer. And in fact, he becomes kind of a point of contention later between Barnabas and Paul, because Barnabas, when they take their second journey, wants to bring John Mark along, and Paul says, "No way, Jose, that kid is nothing but a baby, and he can't take it. And so I'm not taking, if you need him to go, then you can go by yourself." And so they split. Paul and Barnabas form two teams, and Paul takes Silas on his next missionary journey. So interesting little historical detail. So they make it up to Antioch, and they get into the synagogue, and the leaders of the synagogue say, "Hey guys, yeah, you're new here. Would you like to share a message for our community? Do you have anything to say?" And I read that, and I thought to myself, that's exactly what happened to me when I went to visit the Presbyterian Church in Sabinas, Coahuila, a number of years ago, which is where Abner Martinez's mom and dad are members. And I walked through the door, and they go, "Reverendo, ¿quieres predicar esta noche?" Right on the spot, they asked me to preach as soon as I walked through the door. I thought, that's exactly how Paul and Barnabas must have felt. But Paul stands up and he gives a sermon. He talks about the history of Israel, and he talks about the waiting for a Messiah. And my friend Jose Marin says this sermon was the sermon of siete sustos, el sábado de siete sustos. It was Saturday of 7 surprises for the members of that community, that synagogue there in Antioch of Pisidia. The first susto that they got was they heard from Paul that the Messiah had come, and they were all excited. And then the second susto is he said, "But the Messiah is dead." And they went, "What? How can the Messiah have come and died and we, the Jewish community, don't even know about it?" He says, "Well, it's even worse than that. He was killed by the leadership of our own community of faith in Jerusalem. And not only that, but there was nobody in the whole community that stood up to defend him, just like the prophets foretold. And not only that, but he was killed on the cross. He died the most shameful and embarrassing death. Because contrary to the way we make crucifixes today, where Jesus is nicely covered up by a loincloth, Jesus was crucified naked. That was part of the shame of the cross, is that you were publicly exposed and hung for all the people to see. had the Messiah come and die and been accused by and killed by the leadership of the very community he came to. But he was killed in a way that was without any defenders and upon the most shameful form of death, the cross. But he has granted salvation not just to the Jews, but to the Greeks and the Romans as well. Now, that was great news to the Greeks and the Romans. That did not land as such happy news to the chosen people, who really liked being chosen, liked being special, liked having privilege. And that happens to all of us. You know, maybe in the workplace, you had a boss who really liked you and who helped you get little extras or sent you to conferences or did little things for you in the workplace. And then that boss moved up and some new boss came in, and guess what? You weren't the favorite any longer. In fact, it was that new person who's at the desk just down the hall that became the new favorite. And how did you feel? Not so hot, I bet. It's kind of like the Southern whites felt after slavery had been abolished, and now they who had had a little bit of a leg up on the black community, now all of a sudden have been made equal. And they didn't like that. They didn't like it so much that they formed a little organization called the Ku Klux Klan to put those black people back in their place where they belong. Our own history demonstrates the same experience that occurred in Antioch that day in the synagogue. They didn't like the new freedom, the new status that had been conferred to the Greeks and the Romans in the midst. In fact, they didn't like it so much that they stirred up trouble for Paul and Barnabas. So much trouble, in fact, that they were plotting to get rid of them. But Paul and Barnabas found out, and they escaped, and they took the road to Iconium. And that was their second place. At Iconium, they did the same thing. They went to the synagogue, they preached to the people in the synagogue, they told the same message, and the first response was very favorable. Many of the Greeks and Romans were amazed that God had opened the doors now to let them also experience this favor of God's love and mercy, and forgiveness and freedom. But again, some of the Jewish leadership was threatened by that and organized against them. In fact, attempted to put together a stoning party to kill both of them by stoning. But by grace, again, they discovered that this was happening. And so they left Iconium and went into the valley at the foot of Mount Taurus, where the little town of Lystra is. Now, Lystra is an interesting little town. It's situated in a little valley, a deep valley, at the foot of this big mountain, Mount Taurus. And Lystra, this region, the Galatian region, is on the edge of the Roman Empire. And so, similar to the Badlands of the U.S. in the Old West, the Wild West, it was where the bandits went. It was where the folks who were running from the law went. And the town of Lystra was known to be thoroughly pagan. There was a temple to Jupiter. There were no Jews in this city at all. And there were tons and tons of bandits and thieves and people who were running from the law in one way or another. But there's another interesting little piece about Lystra. In Lystra, there was a legend that long time ago, Zeus and Hermes, the two gods, Zeus and Hermes, had come in human form and visited that town. But they were disguised. And so the people didn't know who they were. And they did not offer them hospitality. Nobody would offer them any hospitality, a place to stay, food to eat, except one couple. And this one older couple welcomed them in and took care of them. And then when it was time for Zeus and Hermes to move on, they revealed who they were. And they wiped out everybody in the town except for this couple. And when that couple finally died, they turned into two enormous cypress trees that stood at the entrance to the city. So that was the legend. So Paul and Barnabas show up in Lystra, and as they're conversing with people in the marketplace, again, there's no synagogue, so they can't just start doing their conversations there. And they're talking with people, and they notice this guy who is begging and who doesn't have the use of his legs because his legs have never worked since he was born. And so he's begging on the side. And Paul says in Acts, it says, Paul saw in him faith that was able to heal him. Now, how you do that, I don't know. But he discerned that somehow this man had the capacity to say yes to God in such a way that he could be made well. And so in a firm voice he says, stand up and walk. And lo and behold, this man who had never used his legs before stands up and walks. And all of a sudden the town explodes because they are convinced that Zeus and Hermes have come back again. And that Paul is Hermes and that Barnabas is Zeus. And so they are sure that they've arrived again, and they immediately go, oh, what can we do for you? How can we help you? Where would you like to stay? The whole town is yours. Don't kill us all again. And they go to prepare a sacrifice, a ritual sacrifice, to celebrate that Zeus and Hermes have arrived. And Paul and Barnabas figure out what's going on. They're like, whoa. We're just people like you. We are not gods. But let us tell you about God. And they begin to share the story of Jesus Christ and the opening of the doors of God's mercy and forgiveness and love to all people. And there's a tremendous upsurge of joy and celebration. You can imagine people who have run from the law all their lives being told finally there is forgiveness for you, no matter what you have done. And it seems like everything is going well. Until the disgruntled leadership from Iconium and Antioch catch up to them in Lystra. And they begin talking to the leaders of the town and saying how these guys are troublemakers and that all they did was create division and problems in our community and you want to get rid of them. And they are so good at stirring up dissent against Paul and Barnabas that they finally achieve what they've been trying to do since Iconium. And they take Paul out. Barnabas somehow manages to escape. And they stone him and leave him for dead. Barnabas digs his brother Paul out of the stones and carries him to Derbe, some 30 miles away. Miraculously, Paul is not dead. Miraculously, a man named Gaius welcomes them into his home in Derbe. Paul and Barnabas stay there. Some scholars think for as long as a year, as he recovers from this near-death experience, as he gathers his strength, and as he begins to shape and form a new community of faith in the town of Derbe. And after this long period of recovery, it's time to go home. But instead of going from Derbe around to Antioch, they decide to go back to the cities that almost killed them already once. Because Paul doesn't want to leave the believers unsupported. He started small communities there, and so he goes back to each of these communities, risking his life again in each of them to support and encourage and nurture those communities, to leave presbyteros, presbyters, elders in charge of each of those communities, to be responsible for their worship and their life and their study and their encouragement, to continue teaching them and leading them and guiding them, and to organize them so that they know about one another. And then he comes back here and then sails back to Antioch. The cost to Paul and Barnabas was high. The risk to their life was great. Paul almost lost his life in the process. Only to preach this word. You are free. You are free from the burden of guilt. You are free from the burden of sin. You are free to receive and welcome the mercy of God. You are free in Christ Jesus to be a new person. Paul went back on a second journey to these same communities in Galatia. And shortly after he passed through that third time, he learned through the Christian grapevine that some Jewish Christian believers had showed up behind him and were preaching a different gospel. That's what he's talking about in the letter that he writes to Galatians. You see, the problem is that even within the Christian community, there was this faction of Judaizing Christians who were insisting that if you wanted to be a Christian, you first had to be a Jew, which meant you had to get circumcised, you had to follow the law, you had to follow the dietary kosher requirements, you had to be a good Jew, and then you added Jesus on top of that. And for Paul, what that meant was you had abandoned the gospel of freedom. Now, I may step on a few toes here, and I'm going to just warn you about that right now. Many of us have grown up in Christian environments where we may not have had kosher laws, but there were laws. There were a big list of do nots and don't you dares. Because if you do, you are clearly outside the bounds of what it means to be a Christian. And we can enumerate those. You don't dance, you don't drink, you don't smoke. You don't buy lottery tickets. You don't do a lot of things. You must read this version of the scriptures because it's the only inspired version. You must pray this way. You can't pray that way. You must speak in tongues, and if you don't, then you really don't have the Spirit. You must. Now, I'm here to say for Paul, who risked his life for this gospel, that the gospel is about being free before God. And it is not someone else's responsibility to lay that on top of you. You may choose it, but you may not impose it. Because your relationship with God
is about your amazing and miraculous and hard-won freedom in Jesus Christ. Freedom from that kind of imposition. Because the law never brings salvation. And we will hear that over and over and over again as we study the book of Galatians. Because in this confrontation between freedom in Christ and the insistence of the law, Paul always comes out saying the law is dead. Freedom in Christ is what now rules. So my hope for us is that as we look at this particular instance of confrontation between law and grace, that we will discover how it still is a place of friction within the Christian community today. Even though the cost of that freedom has been huge, and it is one that Paul deeply longed for the Galatian believers to hang on to once they had tasted it. Let us pray. Amoroso Dios, gracias por los que arriesgaron sus vidas para traernos un mensaje de libertad. Ayúdanos a descubrir de nuevo el valor de la libertad y las responsabilidades de proteger y vivirla. Ayúdanos a descubrir en Pablo, en Bernabé y en todos los que lucharon para esta libertad ejemplos que merecen nuestro seguimiento. En nombre de Cristo, quien